why have they actually lost faith in the fiat economy? Like, what is driving people to go that way? Speculation aside, I think there is a lot of people who feel that the economy doesn't work for them, and a part of it is true. It doesn't work for them, right? Like, I mean, I find it really funny that a lot of billionaires pretend that like the economy isn't working for them. It's like, dude, it worked really well for you. I mean, sorry, but half the people in Silicon Valley who say that is like, seriously, guys, like it worked so well for you, like your 100 generations won't be able to finish that wealth.
Today's show is sponsored by Public.com. Public is an investing platform where members can build a portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, ETFs, crypto, and alternative assets, plus get an industry-leading 5.1% APY with a high-yield cash account. I have an account there, and so does my daughter, Rachel. Public's high-yield cash account has one of the highest rates in the market. They have a higher interest rate than Robinhood, SoFi, Wealthfront, Betterment, Capital One, Marcus, Ally, Bank of America, Chase, Citi, Wells Fargo, Discover, and American Express. There are no fees, no subscription required, no minimum balance requirements, no maximum balance limits, and unlimited transfers and withdrawals. You also will receive 20 times the standard FDIC coverage of up to $5 million. Public also has recently launched options trading, where you can earn up to an 18-cent rebate per contract traded. To get started and learn more about Public, go to public.com/trends with friends. This is a paid endorsement for Public investing. 5.1% APY as of March 26, 2024, and is subject to change. Full disclosures and terms and conditions can be found in the podcast description. U.S. members only. Welcome! Trends with Friends. It's lookalike week. Om, Phil. I mean, if I took my hat off, it's Om, Phil, and I don't think you could tell ourselves apart anymore. And then, of course, there's JC, individually groomed hairs today. How long did it take you this morning, JC, to look like this?
I was born this way, baby.
Om is complaining about how early we are. You are live on Trends with Friends. We have very special guests today. A friend of mine, JC, he's already called JC a gringo for his food selections in Chinatown. And Phil's probably the most excited because he hasn't had a chance to really, comes from this era where we looked up to Om. And
I'm a little giddy.
He's the gentle geek. I don't know. He's a big geek, a gentle geek. Been around the hoop, covering the tech industry since, I guess, the 90s, or maybe before.
90s.
And was a partner at True Ventures, made a lot of great investments, started his own media company, been a journalist forever, writes at the great Om.co. It's at Om.co?
Yeah.
Om.co, covering tech, but really covering humanity as well. Comes at it from that humanity part. And Phil, just going to hand it over to Phil because we got a lot of questions for you today, Om. So thanks for being here. Phil, take it away.
Okay, before we start, Howard,
Yes.
I have to ask you a question.
Sure.
I got an email from your team saying no, AirPods, and here you are wearing AirPods.
Are these AirPods?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, I'm
so bad at tech, Om, as you know, that we don't.
No, but I'm just saying that, the rules for everyone are the same.
That's right. This isn't Nam. There are rules.
Clearly, there is billionaire rules here too. It's just one for you and rest of us.
These the AirPods take the attention away from my nose and lack of eyebrows. So it's allowed.
You can keep trying on that. That doesn't go well.
Oh, all right. It's going to be that type of show. Phil, I'll let you step in. But Om, you look great. Welcome to Trends with Friends. You're in for a different type of podcast. Phil, take it away.
Okay, great to have you here, Om. Like I said, I'm a little giddy. Let's just jump right in. We have a bunch of questions for you, but what I'm really curious about right now, so I'm curious about your views on Apple here. And I know that's like such a almost a stereotypical question, but they have some big AI things coming up next week or in a couple weeks. And in addition to that, they've sort of underperformed the rest of the Magnificent Seven significantly over a while now. Like it's been going on for a while, and yet we find them only, all of a sudden, almost out of nowhere, Cinderella story, a couple percent from all-time highs, like 2.5% from all-time highs. So I'm curious what your thoughts like right now in terms of like investing, in terms of like, where are they now? Is it over for them? Are they not a leader anymore? Or is like, this huge audience that they have, customer base that they have, are they going to be able to ride that on the AI wave?
Wow, that's a lot of questions.
Go anywhere you want. Investability,
Especially
AI,
from
whatever
a guy
you
who
think.
doesn't. You're asking questions from a guy who doesn't pay. I pay zero attention to the stock market. Honestly, like literally don't care about the stock market and the stock valuations. I think from a company standpoint, if you look at where they are right now, they technology wise, they're still doing quite amazing things, right? Like if you look at like was it last week or the week before, Microsoft comes out and talks about their new AI PCs and they have network processing units and Microsoft is very good at talking up its book, but really what has Qualcomm done? What has Microsoft done? They basically have come to the same place Apple came almost 4 years ago with their M chips. It's like, hey, this is the way semiconductor industry is going to move forward. They realized that Intel was not the player, so they're going to move off that. They realized that you need to put more GPU and more like, what is essentially neural processing or AI related processing into your chips. They put that 4 years ago. They've been putting that in their mobile chips for a long time, almost 10 years now. And so, like, if you look at just take a step back from where they are as a stock and where they are as a technology company, they continue to innovate on the technology front, right? Like right now they came up with the new iPad. Like, okay, do I want to buy the new iPad? Probably not, because I just bought one like a year ago and I don't really need. And then I bought a Vision Pro, so I have multiple devices. I think when you look at the device, they have a new M4 chip coming. They have figured out how to add more smarts to it so they can make their devices thinner, which basically what they can do is innovate their hardware based on their semiconductor technology. They can make semiconductors perform better for the software they have or what people use their software for. So it's a virtual loop of like reinforcing like their ability to move forward from a technology standpoint. I don't know what the stock is doing. In my opinion, basically Wall Street is or investors are all vibes. They don't really pay any attention to the reality of like what a company is doing. I think like everyone else in the industry, these guys are all running out of growth. Whether it's Apple, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Microsoft, you look at all the things they're doing. There is a glass ceiling on growth. You just can't, like if you're making hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue, you can't really double it every year. And those days are gone. So this is like a more mature industry. Like why is like Amazon nickel and diming us? Like they want to put ads on Amazon Prime Video, which they already charges $100 for, or they want to charge. It's like, okay, you're putting ads here, you're putting like sponsored list. Basically it's telling you that they don't really have any growth engines or growth levers. Same as with, it's like Microsoft is talking up AI. It's pretty unclear like how much is it boosting their actual business. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's boosting their Azure business compared to Google, and like and in the process they kind of shake up Google a little bit. But are we really thinking about the impact of AI on their revenues? Not yet. Like, and this is a company you're trusting your PC to back up all the time. And this is a company known to have backdoors for anyone who wants it, like aka the government, whether it's our government or somebody else's. This is a company with this, I mean, you might as well leave your car open in San Francisco versus, sign up for a Microsoft PC.
It's a good point.
Yeah. So I think we actually look at things in isolation. And that's why it's hard for me to talk about Apple's stock. I don't know. Like,
No, that's
probably
fair.
I call you, Howard. It's like saying, hey, what do you make of this stock? Because I know the technology. I know how things work from a trend standpoint. I don't know how stock markets work. I mean,
Well,
I know
that's
how they work. I just don't trust them anymore because now they're all vibes.
Yeah, well, I think you make a good point why I direct index mostly. Like to own the FANG, to pick, like you just said, there's a ceiling on maybe not TAM, but there's a ceiling on law of large numbers. And Phil, I think one of the questions Phil want to know is your thoughts on where Apple is going to go with AI, right? It seems like they're going to partner because they can't launch a bad AI product. We put up with Siri. Well, I never used Siri. Maybe you did, but we put up with people never really loving Siri. So, in their response coming up, do you think they'll partner or they'll launch something on their own?
It'll be the same, right? Like, did they make their own search engine? They got Google to pay them a lot of money to use Google search, and I think somebody's going to pay a decent amount of money to be the back end, like a backfill. Like, so think like if you were to look at technologically, what they have is the ability, they have devices which are edge capable to do a lot of AI stuff. They have processors which have all the right capabilities. So they will definitely throw out some of their own, LLMs for the local, like on the edge, which things you can do, probably
Photos.
the photos, like, voice to, I think, like, let's step back. I think I'm moving forward too fast. Like, Siri came in 2012, and that's the year the first real AI breakthrough had happened, like in the computer vision space. So, a dozen years have gone since Siri just came to market, and it was essentially a rules based, like a voice engine, same as with Alexa's. I think maybe Google Home was like, probably the Google Assistant was more toward truer form of like what we needed. But again, it's Google. They don't really do anything, with, full bore. They do everything half-heartedly. And like, it's like, I would define them, their efforts are pretty lame in whichever new technology they do. And so, Siri and Alexa are kind of old now, and they just need a Botox. And I think LLMs are going to be the Botox. They need OpenAI, from what I've heard from the rumors, or it could be anyone, could be the backfill. They could use Gemini as a backfill LLM. So kind of like their AI would be running locally, and then they would interface with all these services on the back end and probably figure out a way to market it as like, we are keeping your data private from OpenAI or Gemini or whomever, just like they do with search. But again, I don't think Apple has essentially the the talent to build like large scale, AI kind of a service. So they will have to use other people, which is exactly what they should do. They should let other people figure out the big stuff. They can make their edge devices better, because that's where a lot of the heavy lifting is going to be done in the future. Like, not everything will have to go to the cloud. A lot of the models will reside on our device. A lot of things will happen, and they are properly positioned to make devices for this new era. So maybe that's why the market is getting optimistic about it. But you know, I'm not sure about the market, but I'm optimistic because they do have the technology capability, right? Like, how much they get it done, it remains to be seen. But so I'm like you, I'm going to wait for for the WWDC to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, correct. Michael, who you know, said the same thing, right? It's going to be on the edge, and Apple's got the distribution thing. Phil, a couple other things you wanted to talk about, some of his recent articles, fire away.
Well, okay, so I have a question for you. So I was reading that empathy article. I can't thank you enough for writing that, because from my point of view, so you sort of presented a couple of concentric circles. So recently, just to tell everybody, Om recently published an article about Silicon Valley's empathy vacuum, and he quoted Belsky from Adobe, and sort of talking about a product empathy, I guess you would call it. You might be able to define it better than me. And then you sort of drew a concentric circle around that, sort of more of a brand empathy. And I'm really interested in this because, from my point of view, we have an empathy vacuum in this nation that I could draw another concentric circle around that and say this is a much broader issue. I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that, and maybe if you have any impression on kind of my add to that.
Well, Phil, the thing with empathy is that what Scott was talking about was mostly being empathetic to your customers, which is a very solution-centric way of thinking about everything. It's a product-centric thinking. Okay, you make your product and you understand your customers. I mean, in the old days, we used to call it eating your own dog food, right? Like, basically, it's the same thing. If you don't know your customers, why are you in the business? And I think if you're making a product for yourself and not for your customers, that is how you don't get a product market fit, right? Like, and I think you don't understand. So I think Scott was right in what he was talking about from where he was coming from. And my point was that, using the word empathy in that context actually dilutes the meaning of empathy completely. For Silicon Valley or technology industry per se has done a poor job of it. Like, I've written about this since 2013. Like, every so often, every 6 months, I keep bringing this up, different topics, different agenda, like different reasons, and in 2016, I wrote about this. Like, the headline was Silicon Valley has an empathy vacuum. Is during the 2016 elections when Trump got elected, the point was like, hey, do you even understand like why people voted for him, rather than just being outrightly dismissive of like the results and like blaming the technology, or the technology people blaming Facebook. Or I said, like, we don't really understand what's happening outside of our world. We don't understand the actual real world impact of our technologies. We just understand growth. And like, the first question that the three of you asked me was like, Apple stock is like, you went straight to numbers and cents. So like, if you're going to go there, you're not going to think about the impact of technology. You're going to keep running roughshod over people. And that's like lack of empathy. And that's pretty much obvious here, because in Silicon Valley, we are so growth oriented. We are so driven by, you got to hit your target so you can do your Series A. You hit your target, you do your Series B, Series C. There is no time to be empathetic. There is no time to pause, because if you do, somebody else with equally large amount of cash is going to come and eat your lunch. And so empathy is not really part of like thinking here. It should be, because we don't realize how big the impact we have on the world at large, right? Like, little things like fake uh, news on Facebook leads to thousands of people getting killed in like Myanmar and Sri Lanka, and like or fake news spreads on WhatsApp during Indian elections. Just like, we don't really think about those things. We do a lot of lip service to all those things. We're going to do better. We're going to try. We are putting all these in, but when you're like, if let's say a company like Meta, right? Like their whole core DNA is growth, growth, growth. They are growth, whether it's number of people or number of things you do or amount of time spent on their platforms. They don't really care what is the real impact, because more time you spend there, more money they can make. I can guarantee you, not a single person who's listening to this, who's from Wall Street, gives a shit about empathy, because they want to know how much time spent on Facebook, because that translates into stock doing better, right? You're looking at, oh, the stock's doing $550 a share or $600 a share. That's great, even though it's the same wolf. Now they have a sheep's clothing. That's it. Like,
Yeah, I would say they're least empathetic company of all time, but maybe Philip Morris, but I don't know.
I mean, my view is like charity is one thing, having empathy towards the world at large, the impact, understanding the impact of technology on the world at large is very important. It's important, especially as you've grown up. Like, okay, maybe I can give, you're a series A, B, C, like Uber, right? Like for the longest time, um, like I would argue with Travis. I said, Travis, how about like actually taking a moment and having doing a study about the impact of Uber on local governments or local economies? Like it could be good, it could be bad. Like how about trying to understand that? And it's like, who's got the time, right? Like you gotta go raise, like you're gonna be $100 billion company. You don't have time for that shit.
So true. You've seen all that. And so quickly, Phil. So where does Sam Altman fit into this? This guy is such a lying sack of shit, but that's
Wow.
what we become used to. Come on, in the last week he's been called out for like 20 lies. Like, so I mean,
Howard, we are just talking about empathy, and here you are calling people names. I don't understand.
I'm not saying I have empathy. I struggle with empathy. I'm honest about it. I have empathy for my kids and for my wife who has to live with me. I have empathy for nobody else. I mean, but these people lie about having empathy.
I'm not sure what I can say about that. I think
No, but what do you think about Sam and OpenAI then in this world? Like, is it just more of the same?
OpenAI is using the same playbook we've used in Silicon Valley time and time again. What is the difference between them and what Facebook did? Facebook is, move fast, break things, apologize. Again, take a step back, do the same thing again. 10 years later, you own the world. I mean, why is anyone surprised that people are playing the same playbook? Like literally, like why are you even talking about this? Why is this news?
Good. We
Like,
won't talk about it. I agree.
No. I'm just saying is like, I don't know how to I don't want to talk about a person. Like that's not my view here. It's like, but the thing is, this is systematic, right? Like we've seen this before, we will see it again. Nothing will change. This is how high growth, big growth platforms evolve, become dominant. We've seen this. We will see this again and again and again. Like, I think if you don't, then you become Twitter, and then you get taken over by, another psychopath.
Oh, he wasn't going to get personal, Phil. We got him to go personal.
Like,
Okay.
It's beautiful. Is there a
beautiful.
business case? Is there a business case for empathy? Is there
No.
like a pot?
Hell no. I mean, this is it. Like, that's the thing. Is it's like, then you're questioning capitalism itself, right? Like, I think, again, I keep talking about it because all I want to do is people be aware of like how your products have an impact on other people and on society at large. Like, I also say that had it not been for WhatsApp, half the Indian economy is not going to work. Half the world community won't be able to communicate. I grew up without a phone, so I understand that you can do a video call to anytime, anywhere for free is the greatest thing ever. Like, so I'm the same person. Like, I'm not saying that technology is very complicated. It has a good impact and a bad impact. We, the creators of all these technologies, at least need to be aware of where things can go wrong. We are always talking about where things can go right because that helps us sell our story. But things also go wrong. And like being proactive about learning where things can go wrong and trying to mitigate some of those problems is actually a good thing. It's a good thing for the ecosystem, right? It we need more trust in technology. The technology is at the least trust point in its history right now. No one actually talks about, oh wow, unless like you're a tech bro, right? Like literally, just like everybody is like, those bastards in Silicon Valley. It's like those
Do
guys are
you?
gonna
So
just
you've been so involved with technology for so long, and
Well, he knows the
as it,
people too. Like he
and knows the
knows the
people.
people.
Do you disconnect? How do you disconnect? Do you disconnect?
I love technology. That's it. Like my view is like I separate it from the person. I separate it from the company. I love technology. I don't like the spectacle of technology, and I disassociate. There is a whole class of Silicon Valley reporters, writers, people who focus exclusively on the spectacle of technology. I just like, hey, for me, the iPad announcement was not about how thin it was. It was like, why is it so thin? Like, how is it so thin? Like, what makes it so thin? Not like, so those are the questions I ask. So for me, everybody is fungible. It was, Scott McNeely like 30 years ago, who was the king of the universe. Right now it's Sam Altman. There was Elon who's doing Zip 2, and now Elon who's doing XAI, and like people just come and go, man. The one truth of Silicon Valley, there is always a bigger billionaire around the corner. No matter who you are, somebody's gonna replace you.
I love that. Just quick question. What's your face? It sounds like you answered it with WhatsApp. What is the best product in all your years that you've seen? Not company. What's the best product? Are you saying it's WhatsApp? I would say Google Maps, but maybe now Apple. So is there a product that stands out over time that's like the product?
The product. I still think of the world as before iPhone and after iPhone. So that's my product of my life.
Okay.
I mean, when I think of the iPhone, it literally redefined my preconceived notions about everything. Think about it. The way I think about, I used to have a framework of thinking in which basically I equated the processor to the steam engine, right? So steam engine changed a lot of things, and like similarly a chip changed a lot of things for our generation, right? However, when steam engine was put on the tracks, the world changed. Steam engine was put on a boat, the world changed, right? And in that sense, when we put the chip and the network, that was the boat, the fixed network. When we put chip on a wireless network, device with a wireless network, that was like a train, right? Like it changed how we connected, how we did things, right? Like the chains were all like, we think about technology mostly as like just being technology. But if you look at what trains did, was changed social behaviors. They suddenly made living somewhere else possible. It cross pollination of people, moving of food, moving of goods. It also in its own time hyper capitalized the capitalism, right? Like it
Still does,
turbocharged,
right? Trains
right?
are at all-time highs to 150 years later, right? So
Right. And
you're
like basically, I don't know if you know this, that there was no such thing as fish and chips in England till the Victorian age. Like, the fish couldn't move inland, and inland like the stuff from inland, the potatoes could move to the edges of the country. And like there you are, like, just between like just one little thing. And think about how the network, wireless plus the chip, created how we eat, how we order food, how we love. Like, I mean, it basically redefined how we love, right? Like Tinder is an example. It's like swipe is the new going to the bar, or like, like Yenta is making introductions, right?
so that
Using
would mean Android is the best acquisition of all time because it gave.
YouTube.
Otherwise, you still think, well, if iPhone's the best product of all time, then Android has to be the best acquisition. Otherwise, Apple would own 100% of the market.
Well, I don't know if
I'm with you on YouTube, but I, based on your answer there, I might have to switch to Android. So
because right now the number 2 search engine is YouTube, and Google is very good at only one thing, which is search. They have not monetized Android in any meaningful manner.
Right.
Actually, the best acquisition they made was God. Why can't I remember the name of the company? There is an article on my blog.
Keyhole?
No, it was a company which was responsible for the Google ads.
Oh, the Google DoubleClick?
Oh, right.
No.
Not
it was a
DoubleClick?
tiny company. Our friend from like down in San Diego who had like a God.
Oh, I know which
I
firm
wrote
you're
about
talking
this.
about.
It's on my blog. Like I did a list of best Google acquisitions ranked.
We'll search it.
Of course I did, right?
Oh, good.
I mean,
well, thank you.
Only
Phil?
Couple other things. Now I have more questions. So are we still waiting? You talked about the greatest product, differentiating product from Howard's question, talking about sort of the iPhone and before the iPhone. Are we waiting on a killer product, whether it's hardware or an app or whatever, for AI that hasn't happened yet? Could it be Apple? Could Apple just add a new app to their phone and it's like, maybe it's powered by Gemini or powered by OpenAI or whatever, that just makes it so simple and dumb and easy to use it, like even Howard could use it?
Wow. Howard, he totally slammed you, dude. And you're friends?
I'm all for being slammed.
JC, why are you also not talking? You have no questions? Or you just have to look pretty? That's what you are?
No. You want to know the truth? Let me tell you the truth. And I was actually just thinking about it and staying quiet for a good reason. Like, I don't know anything about this stuff, like nothing at all, like very little. So the fact that I get to hear you guys kind of converse and curious on one thought versus the other, like that's really interesting to me. Like, don't get me wrong, I have my opinions on a lot of things. This just is one that I just like to sit back and kind of observe, like truly. And thank you for that, by the way.
Okay, we're going to call you Vanna from now on.
JC. Okay. What's the most interesting chart in the world right here, buddy?
The most interesting chart in the world for me. Oh, do you want me to be sexy or do you want me to be boring?
I want you to be sexy.
You want me to be sexy?
Yeah.
Okay. How about I give you the sexy one and the boring one?
Yeah, beautiful.
All right. This is a really interesting one. Really shows the all of the major tokens. This is the sexy one. Then I'll give you the boring one that I think is even more important. But this is showing Solana, Binance, Ethereum, and Bitcoin back to those former highs, right? So I was like, I don't care about public markets. That's great. I have to follow the price of what's actually taking place now, right? Where I think something can go, nobody really cares. What I think something should do, nobody cares, right? Like I gotta invest in the market that we're in. And this is really fascinating to me because I think it's really representative of what's happening. These are the blue chips. These are the mega cap cryptos. And when you're seeing, Pepe hitting 7 billion, and you're seeing some of these others like Bonk hitting 3 billion. I mean, these are new all-time highs for a lot of these tokens way down the cap scale. So when you're looking at the big ones, like, are they going to break out? Like, my suspicion is the higher probability outcome is a breakout to new all-time highs. And, I got alerts set up on all of them. When they're printing new all-time highs, I want to be adding to positions. I want to be putting on new positions. Like I want to be getting really aggressive on those. And you're kind of already getting a sneak peek in some of these other tokens. So this is the sexy one. And then I'll give you the boring one. And then we can talk about it.
Just for 1 sec, I didn't fucking see Binance. I haven't checked that. Jesus. So that makes sense. I mean, Coinbase, they're stronger than Coinbase. Wow. Wasn't the guy guilty of like high crimes and misdemeanors? Hilarious. But God bless. What that's so interesting. All right.
Yeah. So
go to the boring
Coinbase
one.
right now has
I'm long Coinbase.
Coinbase right now has a market capitalization of $60 billion. And just to put things in perspective, Binance has a market capitalization of almost 90 billion. So about 50% higher valuation. Binance.
I'm just looking at Goldman. Go to the next chart, and I'm just going to look up Goldman's market cap. Hang on. Go ahead.
Well, the last one is the bond chart, right? So for me, you know, we're talking about all these tokens. We're talking about $1 trillion in Bitcoin, $1 trillion and change. You know, elsewhere you can scroll down to that bond chart. This is a 30-year Treasury bonds, and this is just a chart going back, you know, about a year. And these levels are really, really important. And those of us that, you know, have been following markets for a long time, whether you're in technology or in energy or whatever it is, you obviously understand that the bond market is the bullion town. This is a $130 trillion asset. It's not a trillion, which is Bitcoin, which is irrelevant. It's a rounding error. And this is what's driving markets. And I think that how this resolves is going to be incredibly impactful on a lot of different asset classes, crypto included. And what we're seeing here is the bond market rallying back to where it broke down earlier this year. And listen, if things can get going and we can start ripping through 118, that means lower interest rates. And lower interest rates are going to be very, very, they're going to drive a lot of things. And then if that form of support turns into resistance, which is what it's doing, and that bond market starts rolling over again, and you start to get bond market volatility, that means interest rates are higher. That's higher inflation. Those are high oil prices. Is that why gold and precious metals are doing so well? Because interest rates are going higher, right? So this is to me, when you talk about the most important chart in the world, as fun as the crypto is, and that is cool, and, you know, I am invested in those things. This globally, there's nothing more important than this. And that's not my opinion. That's just a fact.
That's a fact. I think you make that's really good. The way those two are like kind of how optimistic crypto and growth is at a point where the bond market is like, man, what are you people doing? Yeah, go ahead. This is what I knew we'd get you interested on. So fire away.
So the question is, JC, maybe, you know, just again, as a meta question here, like, you know, when you look at treasuries, I think treasuries and all are instruments for, I think, what I call like people with wealth, people who have savings, people who are kind of positioned well in their life. Whereas when I look at the optimism around crypto is from people who actually do not have, you know, like they can't live off their treasury bond interest rates, right? They cannot live off like their trust funds. This is like really, I mean, when I look at those, for the two investment classes, there is a different class of investor. For one, there is people who want to make it, and there is people who have made it. And I think that's the past. This is the people who want, I mean, that's like my meta read of the market. Like, but again,
it's a good read. Wrong. Go ahead, JC, explain it, how you see it.
I mean, if you're asking me my opinion, I don't really care about people or their needs or wants, because I like to look at it from an institutional perspective, and where is institutional money flowing versus what Joe down the street and what is good for him and what might be good for her and how they feel. To me, it's just a rounding error. Like individual investors, like to me, don't matter at all. I like to really look at it from an asset allocation standpoint and how portfolio managers that are moving around hundreds of billions of dollars, how they're moving money around, and then I trickle it down from there is how I view that.
I think this is exactly what I'm saying, is that that's a different set of investors. And whereas you look at Solana or Binance or whomever, it's like somebody who has 20 grand or 25 grand, they'll play it. They'll play the market.
But here's what JC's saying and what we hope. I wrote this the last week, and it just created so much tension. I just did it for fun, that fundamentals have never mattered less, right? And I didn't say that because I believe it, even though I believe it. The kids got what they wanted, a whole separate economy, right? They're willing to vote for Trump on this single issue. Crypto's become a single issue for some people. That's how far along it's gone. Where we're going to forget the fact that he doesn't necessarily believe in democracy, or shed that he doesn't believe in democracy or wants to be. There's a whole group of people that are willing to accept that just so they have a degenerate place to invest and keep their money, which is so far removed from the 30-year bond. I think what JC and I always...
Or it's not so much that they want to be degenerates. What if they actually believe in the ecosystem?
But I'm saying they don't know enough. Hang on, correct. But
You know?
what you, me, Phil, and Om are trying to grapple with is that eventually, JC, this is what you're saying. If bonds will have an impact because speculation, if rates go up, speculation, eventually institutions, that will eventually lay a whoop ass on the speculative community. And timing that, Om, is like a miracle. JC's trying to say, hey man, just keep an eye on what the institutions are doing.
I'm not arguing with JC. I just was making an observation, and I think what you're saying is essentially the same point, except you're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm just saying when you have one type of money is the one which says I have the money, and the reason people are willing to go all in on crypto and ignore the impact of of our politicians and how they're going to break down the society is because they don't think they have it. They don't think they've made it. And I think that's the point I was trying to make, is that in 2016 we never really asked, like, why are people doing this? Like, why is this whole group of people willing to back Trump because of crypto issue? It's like, why is crypto important to this group of people? Why have they actually lost faith in the fiat economy? Like, what is driving people to go that way? Speculation aside, I think there is a lot of people who feel that the economy doesn't work for them. A part of it is true. It doesn't work for them, right? I find it really funny that a lot of billionaires pretend that, like, the economy isn't working for them. It's like, dude, it worked really well for you. Sorry, but half the people in Silicon Valley who say that is like, seriously, guys, like, it worked so well for you, like, your 100 generations won't be able to finish that wealth. Like, you're richer than Rockefellers. Like, there's some people in the valley who are like bigger than Rockefellers already. So
I was just going to say, I think we all agree, we've been calling it the degenerate economy, and that's probably not nice, even though we mean it as a funny term, or I've been calling it that, to encompass all this. These people that feel like they can swing for the fences no matter what the bond market's doing because their speculation has become entertainment. But you're right, there are some people, forget the grifters and the chasers of just the newest shiny thing, that truly do believe in the blockchain, right? And truly do believe that this is a last chance against centralized government. So no, we agree with you there. I think we all agree on that.
I think the grifter part is interesting for you to say that. There was always grifters, man. Back in the day, penny stocks, are the guys who were like,
it's easier now. It's easier now.
That's what technology does, man.
Yeah. That's a good point. Grifting's never been easier.
It's easy to call a taxi when you call an Uber, right? Like, same goes for pump and dump too.
Yeah. So
all you need is a podcast and two people.
I get what you're saying about the distinction between who's involved with these asset classes and the meaning that they have based on that. I would just point out, from my perspective, your question to answer your question to JC in my own words. One thing that I think JC's doing, and tell me if I'm off here, JC, but he is a price behaviorist, right? So he doesn't really care whether the asset, whether the subject of the asset is billionaires or degens or Dogecoin millionaire or whoever. He's looking for patterns of behavior that are universal, that are human, that are based on human nature.
Well, to be clear, all of that is true, but I do care who's participating, because you want to understand what kind of market environment are we trading treasury bonds? Are we trading meme tokens? Are we trading Apple options? Are we trading foreign exchange? Like, these are all very different things that trade in very different ways for many different reasons. So I think it's important to understand what you're trading, who you're trading alongside also, right? I think it's very important who's around you, who's doing this with you or without you, who's ignoring it, who's not able to participate because that market might be too small, who might not be participating because that market is too big, right? I think all of those are important factors that go into play when looking at different assets.
I think today we're proving also why it's my favorite content that I do is that I know just like Michael Parekh and JC get along. I know that when you combine behavior, tech, price, and my kind of floatiness across all these things, I always know that we're all going to get along because these things are all connected. The price is attached to the technology, which is attached to the company, which is attached to the behavior, right? And we're in this virtual fucking accelerating loop of all this, right? Like, so it's all, that's why everybody gets along when they come on this show, is because they're all connected. And it's fun to have all the different aspects.
I think the one meta thing which connects everything is that we still don't understand or internalize that things are moving way beyond human capabilities now. Like the markets, the information, like the information arbitrage is like in nanoseconds, like,
Yeah.
and it's going away even there. So,
But it's also
like,
increasing. It's also increasing.
Yeah.
As much as the pipe was all centralized, now the pipe is exploding too.
Well, it's also like a lot of it is because there is so much chaos and there's so much noise, like the markets don't, like, I can feel it. Like the fundamentals don't really like have that much of an impact anymore because like Phil is asking me like why is Apple going up? I don't know. Like I don't think even Apple knows why it's going up, but they're not complaining because I bet you some guys decided in Wall Street that they have a AI story and Bloomberg wrote an AI story and like people just kind of got onto the vibes and they're also getting out on the other like I used to be a stock market reporter. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I
And
remember.
the reason
Smart
I got
Money,
out
Smart Money magazine.
no, dude.
Before
I used
that.
to work for Nikkei,
Okay.
Quick Nikkei News, which is like the Japanese Bloomberg, but I don't know if it exists or not anymore. Anyway, like the point was that I learned that this is all a game. It's all a trade. It's not like reality is that the only way you can maintain a focus onto the future is by actually paying attention to technology. It's like again, it's like, will OpenAI be the ultimate winner of AI? I don't know. But we are directionally on a path where there's no going back from it. And whether it is them or somebody else, it doesn't matter to me, right? Like I'm living my life, I'm living with my own dollars. I'm not living Sam's life, or I'm not getting rich like Sam, and I'm not working for them. So I don't really care who wins. Like I don't get emotionally involved. What I'm seeing is we're on a path. We are on a technological path. There is no coming back from it. People may want to like, let's go back and this thing is going to destroy us. I mean,
Can't turn the machines off.
I saw a cartoon from 100+ years ago in which like when they put a light bulb on the street light and it was viewed as like the end is coming, which is like the end is always coming, man.
The genius of that is Brad Feld used to say it to me 20 years ago when I met him, is like, you can't turn the machines off. I can turn myself off with Sabbath, like a digital Sabbath, but you can't turn the machines off. They're coming. You can't turn them off. Really, really,
yeah,
kind of
true. Phil, try this if you want. Like this is my little life hack. For 3 days or 4 days, I just don't. I use my phone. I'll check my email, but I don't use any news app and I don't use any social app for 3 days. It's very easy to do. Actually, if you're like, and then you suddenly, the world is moving at a normal pace. Like everything is good. Like,
yep.
Email is just necessity right now, right? Like if you use your phone,
still the killer app. Still the killer app, baby.
You still need to use your, if I don't know if you use Uber or not. I do. So if you want to call an Uber, you want to do some, on-demand grocery or whatever, you can do all those things. But the world is not moving crazy fast for you. I mean, I use like my home screen. All the apps I use have some kind of AI in it. And my life is just better because of it. Like, I'm not complaining about any of those things. It's like, oh, okay, Perplexity does give me better answers, not the right answers, but slightly better answers than navigating through, junk on google.com. I'll take it, right? Like, or asking OpenAI to, read through Apple's SEC filing. Yeah, I'm good with that, right? Like, all those kind of things make sense. Or like uploading, latest SEC filing to Claude on Poe. I'm not complaining about any of those things. It would take me forever to do those things. However, I'll do other things which are normal for me. Like, I'll read a book which is actually a book and it's not on the phone. And right, like I love my Vision Pro. I love watching movies and baseball games in Vision Pro. It's actually distraction free. Like, I'm not really bothered with any other thing, and I'm actually doing just one thing. And so the point is, like, we are in control if we want to be. If we want to complain about like where we are going and like everything is becoming crazy, then we're not trying hard enough to take control of. I mean, I write with 100-year-old fountain pen. I don't even know JC even knows what a fountain pen is, right? I write on paper. I'll write every single article I write is on piece of paper. I plot it, like I draw it, and then I write it out, and then I type it into my computer. Mostly because I want to not like feel that I have literally no control over my own creative inputs and outputs. That's it.
You experience that too when you're taking pictures as well?
Yeah, I mean, like, when I'm taking pictures, there's no cell service anywhere. Honestly, I'm
So
in the middle
different.
of nowhere.
That's right.
Beautiful.
You're into photography. That'll be for the next one. So, JC, bring us home with some other ideas, and then let's talk a few more ideas. Because we do this thing called Trends with No Friend Zone, which really is all about fundamentals, actually. So as far away as we are from fundamentals, we bring it back home as I came up with this list of trends with no friends, which are stocks that are going up that no one cares about, and they're generally going up because the fundamentals are good. But JC, take it away. Do we have a couple more charts?
Yep, I got a couple more minutes, and I wanted to mention just something that's on my mind, is the sector rotation that we've been seeing, and that's something that happens in the stock market quite a bit in bull markets and in bear markets. And you could see here where my chart is that consumer discretionary, which is where consumers spend their discretionary income. That's my fundamental analysis right there. Is just went out a new 10-year lows. That chart above, new 10-year lows relative to the S&P 500. So this is the lowest level relative to the overall market that consumer discretionary has been in a decade.
So what is that saying, JC?
Well, you can argue, based on historical evidence, that the consumer discretionary sector is one of the more offensive, more important contributors to the overall market, right? So when consumer discretionary is underperforming, that tends to be happening in an environment that is not all that favorable for stocks. Now, of course, this time could be different, of course, or we can all of a sudden get a magical rotation back into consumer discretionary, and things could catch up. That's certainly possible, but it is worth noting that one of the most important areas of the United States stock market is making new 10-year relative lows. And a big reason for this one is because Amazon has been such an underperformer, and Tesla has been an underperformer, and those are the two largest components. McDonald's has been getting hit, Home Depot. So if you go down, what you can do is you can eliminate the Amazon factor by equally weighting the entire consumer discretionary sector. So all of the stocks in discretionary have an equal representation in the index versus being a Amazon, Tesla heavy index, which is what the market cap weighted is. And when you compare the equally weighted discretionary to an equally weighted basket of the S&P 500, you are also getting new 52-week lows on an equally weighted basis in consumer discretionary. So this isn't just an Amazon thing or a Tesla thing. This is a consumer thing, and I think it's quite obvious. So I think, again, is it the end-all be-all like the 30-year bond that we were looking at before? No, but it's very helpful. Is this the end-all be-all? Probably not, but I think this is very, very interesting and informative.
So the evidence, JC, says that people are being a little bit too, they're throwing caution to the wind a little bit too much here. Based on where you're saying the bonds could roll over here and discretionary is a 10-year low, people should be a little.
If bonds roll over here, I mean, that's what discretionaries are telling you. I like these two energy stocks right here. You can scroll down to where my mouse is. Look at Valero. If Valero is above those former cycles highs, how can you not own it? Call it 150, 155. Or above that, you can stay long all day. Look at Imperial Oil out of Canada. It's another one. If this thing's above 60, hard not to like it. So very well-defined risk, which I love, as you guys know, huge basis, relative strength. It's hard for me. It's hard to argue with the market. If the market thinks that these stocks are going higher, I'm not going to fight them on it. If you can't beat them, join them. These are two names I like.
Is Netflix considered consumer discretionary? Is that
Netflix is communications?
Okay, so that's why it's. Yeah, I don't know if it's consumer discretionary because I would never discreetly give it up. Like that's my snug room. So my thing is my snug room is my no phone room, which is just a little media room. And I just been watching Game of Thrones all weekend when I wanted it. I expected to work all weekend. My wife's not here and Max is here and he was out all weekend and it's just me, Max. And I spent fucking 2 days watching 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, which is about as off the grid as you can get. And I just feel so rejuvenated because I was disconnected from the world. But so Netflix is communications, I think it's consumer discretionary.
4% of the communications index.
But you would think it would be consumer. Anyways, what an interesting 2 charts that is, JC, because I've been feeling like I'm chasing the market and feel giddy here. There's so many breakouts. But at the same time, there's a lot of 52-week lows I saw that Riley shared. There's also a bunch of 52-week lows.
Some stocks are going up. Some stocks are going down. Some stocks are going sideways. Us old timers call that normal.
Yeah. It's kind of something for everybody right now. But I think those are two
right,
great.
Pearl Dog, you're an old timer.
Old timer. I want to end this. I have a question for Om, and I want to kind of bring it back to this more philosophical
Those are great
realm.
charts, JC. I didn't realize how I feel like I'm kind of overexposed right here, and that kind of makes me a little nervous. But I'll wait for the price action to confirm.
It could go the other way, and discretionary could bounce back.
Yeah.
And so then you really get the S&P runs. Okay, so Om, here's my last question for you. So,
and to be clear, there's no evidence of that whatsoever.
No evidence. I'm just saying anything's within the realm of possibility.
And I've seen stranger things.
Stranger things, exactly. So,
but I like the energy.
So quick question, JC, is this a good moment to put on some puts if you're too long, or is it options price saying pay for some insurance if to bet against the bonds breaking out? Like
I like straddles. We put on our election trade. We put on a straddle on the Qs.
That's our porn show.
We get a 10.
That's our porn show.
I'm sorry?
They like straddles on our porn version of Trends with Friends.
Oh yeah, that's on Saturday nights though. So this is a family
Friends with
episode
straddles.
Here. Yeah, friends with extra straddle. So I like the election trade for me is have a straddle. Volatility is so low. I forget what I'm doing. Volatility is so low.
It's crazy
that if you want to buy puts, you could buy puts. If you want to buy calls, you could buy calls. Like this is not an environment where it makes sense to finance trades because you're not getting paid to. Straza comes into work every day. He's like, I want to sell puts in something. I want to sell puts in something. And the joke is we're not getting paid to sell puts. So we're not selling puts in anything. You want to be buying puts and calls if you're going to be doing anything in the options market. I think that's the bigger theme here.
I'm not going to spend the time. All right. Well, go
ahead.
So
last question. Om, I just want to come back to you. So I went through my own health renaissance, right? I'm an alcoholic. I drank way too much. I was way overweight. I was heading in a terrible path. And as soon as I heard you were on today, the first thing that I thought about, and this is going back a ways, and it's been about 16 years. I was just looking it up earlier this morning. It's been about 16 years. You had a heart attack. And I found this quote. I think it was in the New York Times. And this is a quote from you going back a ways. Everybody conveniently forgot that, everybody was talking about, oh my God, did you hear Om had a heart attack? Oh my God, it's terrible, terrible. But then you were asked about it. And you said, everybody conveniently forgot that I was smoking and I was drinking and I was eating unhealthy foods and I was not exercising. Those 4 plus the stress of the job combined to a short circuit. You have a lot of wisdom having, that happened to you so long ago and you've made changes. We were just commenting earlier, you look great right now. Amazing, and it's great to see you. Do you have any just comments or just like reflections around your experiences there and how you are now, so many years, 16 years later?
I mean, I'm not sure I have anything more, how would I say that? Like, I think if anything, that event made me more self aware about and being honest with myself more than anything else. I think that quote pretty much reflects like my honest assessment of myself at that time. You cannot blame other people for whatever happens to you. And I think that's the big takeaway. You're solely responsible for your own actions and your own. Yes, there is a lot of luck involved. I was genetically predisposed to be diabetic and have a heart attack because my father had one and my grandfather had one. And I'm pretty sure his father, my great grandfather had one, but we don't know. And I think, but somewhere down the line, it made me very aware of the fact that a lot of what happens to us is within our control. And since then, I've tried to kind of focus on that rather than just I can't control what other people do. I can control what I can do. I can control who I associate with. I can control what I do, how I behave. I can't tell other people. I can't police other people. I can police myself. And I think that was the big realization 16 years ago. And since then, I've kind of lived by those ethos. It's not a very complicated, thing. It just is like, may feel selfish at times, but so be it. It's like, and I think, when you said you have gone through the same process, I think the first thing which put you on the path to recovery is honesty with yourself. I mean, I wish more people were honest to themselves as to like whether they're doing the right thing or not the right thing, whether the things which are happening to them are good or not good. I think most people are not. And so, I look back and like, this is where I am. Like, nothing has changed. Like, every year I just have to pay attention to that. The minute I go off track, I do stupid things. I twice in the middle, I've gained weight because I stopped working out, started eating unhealthy, and then everything started going in the wrong direction. And I was like, wait, this is my problem. I got to fix it. And right away, it didn't take 6 months. It took 3 months to get back on track. So that's about it. I mean, I'm glad you're over your own, trials and tribulations and you're on your path. Like, that's it. Just stay on it. Don't have to do anything. Don't have to talk about it. Just, you're just going to live your life a little bit better than you were few years ago.
Is there, before we head out, if you can hear me, is there one trend that really excites you? I mean, we talked about the slim pills or the fat pills. Is there one area of tech that like no one's watching that really has you excited?
I think the impact of AI on whether it's drug discovery, materials, like the actual science is still underappreciated, and that's the area where we're going to see more impact. Like, it's nice to kind of see generative AI, create, porn photos and fake information. But reality is that there is a lot of applications in healthcare, in materials, in proper physical sciences, where it will gonna have a huge impact. I'm excited about that. But again, real technology, right? Like,
real. This is what's so exciting about the craft, even in my business, because you're an LP of ours, and what I'm excited because Om's been on my show so many times in the past, Phil. But like, what's exciting about what we do here is we talk about the markets too. What's exciting, I think, about tech is the stuff that I don't understand. Biotech, healthcare, industries that just I'm too old to learn, and so I have to watch from the outside and cheer it on. And obviously, I get nervous because I'm not a user of any of these products. But at the same time that goes on, there's just all this opportunity in business building from these tools. So we're going to get away from like So now we can go fund businesses, whether it's golf or whether it's older industries that now you can apply. Because WhatsApp, like what you were saying, there's just not a way to improve much on WhatsApp. Like no matter how much tech moves along, you've kind of got the iPhone factor and you've got the WhatsApp factor. And it's like, what are people like? So now this energy will move, not just AI, but we'll move into healthcare and real benefits. And YouTube, like you also said, is the best acquisition. I'm with you. YouTube and Netflix are going to be my favorite, maybe Spotify. I know you're not a huge Spotify fan anymore, but YouTube and Netflix are going to benefit the most from AI because they have the most content and they have the most data and they have things that people want to retrieve from. So I think we're into this exciting era of business building, and tech will move on to solve other problems.
Just before we go, a couple of things, right? Like again, it's so much easier to focus on the consumer stuff. Like cloud happened, and one of the bigger companies which came out of cloud is like, a factor later is Snowflake. You would have not had a Snowflake stock had it not been for the cloud or had it not been for boring enterprise applications, right? Like, so the thing is, it's so easy to get caught up in the consumer stuff. The other thing is, the first time I came on your show was during the pandemic. And we talked about, and it's almost 4 years since then. It's literally 4 years from the day. Uber is a much bigger company. Instacart is a much bigger company. DoorDash is a much bigger company. They are inching towards profits. Well, debatable, but all the things, EVs, automation, the things we talked about in that show, that basically the pandemic was a beta test for the future. And like 4 years later, we've made progress towards that future. Whether we like it or we don't, that's a whole different, that's a personal, choice or personal, wherever you sit. But we've made a lot of progress in 4 years. None of the things like Zoom is part of our culture now. It's not going away. Go back to work now includes a little bit work from home. Like maybe not 100%, right? Like I think that the technology does its thing over a period of time. And when we look back and just say, oh, first year, Apple sold 1 million units of the iPhone, right? You didn't think it was going to be a $3 trillion company. None of you did. No one on Silicon Valley, no one like you talk about AI, there is so many Silicon Valley VC geniuses who didn't invest in OpenAI. They are now getting onto the AI bandwagon. Like these people, position themselves as the soothsayers of the future, and yet they miss what was literally hiding in plain sight.
Yeah,
And
because like you said, that was around since Siri 10 years ago. It just was.
Yeah,
it was different
the
type of.
progress takes time. We take time. I think the journey is the exciting part. That's what I'm excited about every single day. Yeah, there are times when I'm distracted, is when the noise is too much and the hype is too much and the bubble is on. Like when the bubble is at its is burst, that's when like my brain starts to function properly.
All right, beautiful, Phil. Are we? We've kept him long enough.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Everybody,
Thank you,
Trends
guys.
with Friends. Did you enjoy the format? Oh, man, I thought you would.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's just a little longer conversation, just a little more expertise. So we'll have you back, but it's just great to brainstorm with you and see how you're thinking about the world. And JC had a drop. And Phil, we'll see you next week. Everybody, Trends with Friends,
Take
thanks
care.
for showing up.
Adios, guys.